The last episode of Reform Review got me thinking about small changes that could be made to English. Then I saw its orthography page on Wikipedia and thought, nah, not worth my time. For now at least. So I turned to another language with tricky spellings. Despite being more predictable than English, French spelling does still have many irregularities, some of which could be resolved by a reform similar in size to SR1 and Stage 1. Better yet, France's Académie Française and Quebec's Office québécois de la langue française, among other institutions around the world, exist in part to regulate spelling and suggest reform in a way that's now impossible for the English language. So, why not give it a try? If mentions of the Académie Française make you uneasy, hear me out. Although it often prescribes an elitist, conservative view of how French should be used and written, its social prestige does make it a useful channel for suggesting a new reform. Similar arguments can be made for the other institutions around the world aiming to regulate the French language. Now, let's talk letters. C and G's history are inextricably intertwined. The Romans adopted Greek grammar in its rounded form, like a C, for the sound G. Later on, C also replaced the letter K for the sound K in Latin. So to avoid confusion, G was introduced to replace C for G. Z or Z, the seventh letter of the alphabet at the time, wasn't needed in Latin, and G eventually took its place in the 3rd century BCE, and it hasn't changed since. For more information on the alphabet's history in edutainment form, I can't recommend Jan Misli's videos W and C enough. Why do I mention all this? Well, enter my reform, the seriously titled Casual Conlanger's Correction of C, or CCCC, and yes, the 4th C does have to be lowercase. In French, it's the Correction du C de Casual Conlanger. Notice how the little c moves from 4th to 2nd position. How delightful. Speaking of second, we'll switch the c in second for a g, which, as you can hear, is pronounced with a g and not a k. In fact, second used to be spelled like this until an etymological respelling brought it more in line with Latin secundus, despite similar cases like dragon from Latin draco going unchanged. We'll do the same for zang, respelling it like dang, bilang, flang, and schlang, so that it resembles zange, zangri, zanger, and other words related to zinc pronounced with g. For zinky scientific vocabulary pronounced with k, like zincat and zincographie, or se, like zincite and zincifer, the c won't change. Given spellings with c and gu exist already, this change has the simple effect of realigning the root word's misleading spelling with its other, more logical derivatives. I do realise that a lot of people pronounce this word zank, basically as zank, everywhere I go except physics teachers, so maybe this is a word that's going to be majority pronounced zang in the future, but like for now, realigning it just, I don't know. I'm trying to attack the letter C, give me some leeway here. We'll replace CZ with X in eczema, since the pronunciations eczema and eczema are both in use. This respelling was part of the Conseil supérieur de la langue française's 1990 reform, but, like much of the rest of it, hasn't caught on in standard orthography. While we're at it, let's replace the silent C in caoutchouc, rubber, with a more consistent T, since all derivatives of the word add an epenthetic T. We'll leave succion be, as it can be pronounced both succion and succion. Now, there was a bit of a controversial rule that I considered for a while. I proposed we spell words like direct and correct with a G when associated verbs end in ig, for instance, diriger and corriger. Here's the full list of verbs whose related lexeme spelt with C would receive this change. It isn't perfect and, for instance, turns direction to direction, which looks meh. On the plus side, it does provide a pseudo-etymological link between related words, and the G would still be pronounced k given the voiceless t or s that follows in many derivatives. This would have been in contrast to words like succinct and respect, where the final CT is silent in the lemma form, but pronounced in derivatives like succinctement and respecter. I won't include this for two reasons. First, it establishes a false etymological link that could mislead pronunciation. The split between forms with G and C, as well as X for some, already existed in Latin. Second, it goes against the goal of increasing the transparency of French spelling. And for now, that's it. That's the Correction du C de Casual Conlanger. A full-out attack on the letter C, small like the letter, and mostly uncontroversial. And don't worry, there'll be other reforms of French and maybe English in the future. Maintenant, c'est à vous de me dire ce que vous en pensez. À bientôt!